Hey people, what's going on? Welcome back to Football Therapy with me, your host Jan. I hope you're doing well. I really do hope that. Welcome back to Chelsea news, of which there's a few pieces of news to talk about today. Chelsea, of course, the narrative hopefully is changing, but you never really know, do you? You win 3 games on the bounce, and then you have a disappointing result against Arsenal despite playing very well. You then have a relatively catastrophic loss against Brentford, losing 2-0. Very, very disappointing indeed. But then you slap up Tottenham Hotspur 4-1 in their own backyard, halting the unbeaten streak of Ange Postecoglou. But of course, that doesn't tell the whole story. There came a lot of concerning elements of that game. In isolation, Chelsea so far this season have played well, but maybe not got the results. And that game was a very, very good result, but maybe not actually playing well. Today we are discussing the injuries, what's going on with Lavia and Kunku, Conor Gallagher, new contract apparently, and also The Athletic have written about Ivan Toney. We are like weeks away from the January transfer window. And he could come to Chelsea, which is obviously seismic news in isolation, friends. So, get comfortable. Thank you for dropping a like on the video. It takes a millisecond and it supports the content. Well, I suppose if you're watching on your phone, you tap it with your thumb. If you want to, you're welcome to subscribe, of course. And if you do, I suggest you hit the bell, because then you get notified I upload. Alright then, Conor Gallagher first. Tom Gott and Graham Bailey right on 90 min. Chelsea are to accelerate Conor Gallagher's contract talks. Yeah. By the way, I just looked up Observatory CIES. Conor Gallagher's valued, even now, with not much left on his contract, €60 million. Interestingly, I won't tell you the other players because it makes you feel like, oh, we've overpaid for a lot of players. But we already knew that. Levi Colwill is rated as a €60 million player as well. No wonder we didn't want to sell him to Brighton. Yeah, incredible place because he's young, English, and he's got a long contract. Anyway, Chelsea are keen to step up their talks with midfielder Gallagher over a new contract ahead of the January transfer window. Gallagher is in the final 2 years of his current deal, and despite admitting his desire to stay at Stamford Bridge, he was made available for transfer in the summer. Of course, Chelsea officials sought to raise money after loads of spend, essentially. Newcastle United, Tottenham and West Ham all remain interested, so that's even now, who has started all 10 of Chelsea's Premier League games so far this season, and has even worn the captain's armband in the absence of usual skipper Reece James, and of course vice-skipper Ben Chilwell. Blues boss Pochettino is a self-confessed huge fan of Gallagher. We all assumed that would be the case before he got started, Pochettino. And behind the scenes has approved Chelsea's plans to try and tie the academy graduate down in the coming weeks. Yeah, bro, he's got about 19 months left on his deal. And that is like panic time for these owners. Like, if you're on 19 months, you've got to be sold, get out of here. And he was like on the chopping block, man. He was very much available for transfer. Yes, so Chelsea hope to have thrashed out the terms of the 23-year-old before the January transfer window, where suitors are expected to reignite their interest, especially because he's playing well. He's an important part of the Chelsea team, and they might be, and the time is running out on his contract. They know Chelsea's, liable to sell academy graduates. Lewis Hall, Mason Mount, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, I'm probably missing more. Trevoh Chalobah, certain to follow. So, yeah. Gallagher, who is aware of the interest in his services, but is enjoying life under Pochettino. And by the way, Gallagher is a boyhood Chelsea fan that comes from a family of Chelsea fans. So whose decision to make him temporary captain has only strengthened the bond between the duo. In late October, Gallagher confessed he was unsure of his future during the summer, but credited Pochettino for sticking by him. Gallagher said this, quote, "Before I met Pochettino, I wasn't sure on my future because there was so much happening. So many players leaving and coming in. The midfielder said, I was buzzing to play under him and stay at Chelsea and prove myself to the club and the fans more this season." And Pochettino said this, "First of all, you have to see how they feel. In this case, the player and the club of the intentions of either side. It's about a good feeling together. He is a player who is doing fantastically. He's an amazing player, and we are so happy he is doing things, presumably good things. It doesn't shock anyone that Pochettino likes Gallagher, and Gallagher, he's not the most graceful and stylish of players, but he is a player that makes a lot of sense for Pochettino. I feel like it'll be relatively low maintenance, low ego, high effort, and if you add the graceful quality around him, your Enzo Fernandez is on one side, and Nkunku the other, like up in front of him, then he'll be a really viable asset. And as more time goes on, if we get big results, of course, Man City's coming to town, which is going to be very, very difficult. But if he's a part of this team and big results, we'll have no choice, I guess, but to extend him on the terms that he finds agreeable. What do you think? How would you feel about Gallagher? Do you think we should sell him because he could bring in a lot of money and we've got like Cassidy and Santos and other players that could come in? Or do you think we just absolutely need to extend him? Leave your comments down below and I look forward to reading those. Right, so let's talk about injuries before we talk about this Ivan Toney news. Caught offside, right. Chelsea manager Pochettino could be forgiven for thinking it's 2 steps forward after the Blues win against Tottenham, and 1 step back because of the injuries. Of course, form's steadily improving, but we're far from the finished article, okay? So a decent showing against Pep Guardiola's side this weekend would not only put the cat amongst the pigeons in terms of showing that Man City are beatable, but, well, I mean, they are beatable because they've been beaten this season. But it would also strengthen Chelsea's own aspirations as we look to climb the Premier League table. Look, guys, if we somehow beat Man City, and this is somehow, despite the low block problems this season, we would have outplayed Liverpool. Klopp admitted as much. Arsenal, we absolutely threw that win away ourselves. We outplayed Arsenal. Tottenham, and then Man City, like... Imagine. And if that happens, and this is a big if, because we might literally get slapped up by City. And to be honest, if we do, it's kind of okay. Well, it's never okay, but, it's not that bad. If we do somehow beat them, it will be like, okay, we literally just can't beat low blocks. Other than that, we're a wicked team. According to Premier Injuries... a service that only gives you really good injuries. Only Armando Broja appears likely to make his return. So, of course, Wes Fofana, Ben Chilwell, Lavia, and Nkunku, Trevor Chalobah, and Chukwuemeka are still unavailable. There's still no return date for the latter two, and Nkunku will be back in contention later this month. By the end of this month, which actually is really, 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 really good. Lavia should be available and Chilwell by mid-December, while Fofana is out for probably the season. So Lavia, in just around a month's time, people forgot about Lavia. Like, he could be really, really useful, especially in rotation and when you want to do different things in certain games. Even if Pochettino goes... right, my starting midfield three was just always going to be Caicedo, Enzo, and Gallagher because they're a good balance. But if he wants to try something different and have a look, because Lavia is a ball carrier, maybe against the aforementioned, horrendous low blocks, Lavia can help, and he'll be a really important asset to have. And yeah, Fabrizio Romano tweets this. Understand Chelsea's decision is to take no risks with Nkunku's comeback. It's not expected to happen this weekend against Man City. Yeah, because he's posted pictures of him training. So people have been thinking, oh, Nkunku's back or ready to start, should I say. But after the international break is what they're saying. But yeah, he looks good and they're very happy. But yeah, that's going to be wild. It's going to feel like a whole new world. Don't you dare close your eyes. Nkunku, Lavia, other footballers that are currently unavailable. Current footballers that develop into better footballers. The next gen Chelsea could be incredibly exciting. Anyway, we'll talk about that as the stories develop and the players come back in. But let me know what you think about Lavia's. I say return because he is returning from injury, but he hasn't started in any competitive games. Sorry, I'm thinking of Nkunku. And Lavia. Lavia hasn't done anything. So the introduction. Anyway, let me know what you think. Let's talk about Ivan Toney. So it's going to be a big talking point. Where is he going to go? He's probably going to leave Brentford in January. Though, ladies and gentlemen, what people aren't considering is both Burmo and Visser are going to AFCON, and that's their two starting strikers. And in the absence of them, they've only got, what's his face? Maupay. Neil Maupay just doesn't score goals. So they're totally screwed. But then again, if Toney asks to leave, and, you know, he'll be 18 months to 12 months, that's 6 months extra on a contract. You get a lot more money. Oh, it's like the most you get, it's the most you can squeeze out of a 6 months period, because it's, when you're down to 1 year, the optics are much different to 18 months. So maybe they think, well, we can get, 65 million quid for Toney now, but if we sell him on 12 months, maybe we can only get 45 million? I don't know. And I know the difference of staying in the Premier League's massive, but they're not going to get relegated due to there being some really poor teams in the Prem. So if they think, look, we're not going to get relegated this year, let's just, make the juice on Toney, then he could probably, weeks now, like days, he could be sold. So The Athletic have written an article about where he could go. They speak about Arsenal first, and then they speak about Chelsea, and they said this. A move to Brentford's West London neighbours, Chelsea, is another option. They are considering Toney, but he turns 28 in March, and it would go against their strategy under Bodie Clearlake's consortium of targeting players aged 25 and under. But we'd all say that, yes, we like maybe another senior player up there. Chelsea's struggles in the past couple of years might make them less attractive option too. They finished below Brentford last season, and they're currently 9 points outside the top 4 following Monday night's dramatic 4-1 victory over Tottenham. Yeah, so this kind of project, and it is a project, attracts young players because they think, in like 12, 18 months will be good. But when you are 28, you're probably thinking, bro, I want to play good now. I want to play in the Champions League now, Chelsea might not be in the Champions League next season. In fact, there's the odds on that we won't be. And then he'll be another year, then he'll be 29. Arsenal almost certainly will be. And if he joins in January, odds are they'll still be in the Champions League, right? So I think they will. The group stages restarted then? I mean, the knockouts. Anyway, if Pochettino's side don't quickly improve, then they could face the prospect of another year without European competition. There you go. In the past, Chelsea could compensate for this with the size of salary on offer, but they are more conscious of keeping their wage bill in check. For example, Mykhailo Mudryk and Enzo Fernandez are on much smaller salaries than Chelsea players of the past would receive. It means their rivals could be in a position to offer Toney a better financial package. Yeah, bro, and this is huge. People think, Mudryk went to Chelsea for the money. It's 90k a week. We gave Romelu Lukaku 325k a week. You go to freaking Manchester United, you can sit on the bench and earn 300k a week. Legit. And Arsenal won't pay United money. But I think Saka's on over 300k a week, but he's a starter, So they'll say to Toney, yeah, mate, come to us and you get massive freaking contract. You know what I mean? But Chelsea wouldn't offer that. Toney is not the only striker on Chelsea's radar. Of course, Chelsea are looking at Victor Osimhen from Napoli. The Nigeria international turns 25 next month, so fits the age profile, but he would cost a lot more in transfer fees and wages. I think probably because Osimhen's so high profile and he's won the title, the Scudetto, that he'd command high wages. Where Toney's current Brentford wages, Chelsea could still triple it and it, be within their price range. Do you know what I mean? There is also admiration for Toney at Manchester United. We don't care about Manchester United. They've just spent loads of money on a centre forward. Anyway, we spent 30 million on Nico Jackson. By the way, I spoke earlier about the CIES Observatory player valuations, and they had Nico Jackson, I don't know why, but 60 million euro. So we've nearly doubled his value by signing him, which is interesting, and putting him on a long deal. That's interesting. I mean, the jury very much is still out on Nico Jackson, isn't it? I mean, 5 goals in 10 Premier League games. Thank you very much. Context required, of course. Especially when I know loads of people are comparing him to Rasmus Højlund, who's got 0 goals in 8 games. But he actually looks very good, Højlund. I don't think he's doing anything particularly mega wrong. Jackson has done stuff wrong, but he's also done stuff right. Let's talk about this a bit more. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about Toney as time goes by. Few months ago, I would have been like, yes, please, he's perfect. He doesn't need to settle. He lives in West London anyway. He's senior. He won't be like a kid that gets like overwhelmed, like all these Chelsea kids from different countries that need to settle. He'll be like, yeah, no worries, and he'll offer like senior guaranteed goals up front. The only issue I think is we play well differently to how Brentford play. So, but if he really does back himself, then great. I kind of personally, I mean, if you score 20 Premier League goals for Brentford, come to Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? But my issue is I kind of just started drifting away from him. I've referenced it a couple of times before, but heck, I'm going to do it again. When he spoke to on the Diary of a CEO podcast, he said, oh yeah, I really love what he was making kissy faces at Arsenal and talking about how he was a Liverpool fan. Didn't mention Chelsea once, Maybe he thinks, I just want to be slam dunked into a Champions League team. But at the same time, he is all about his career, you can tell. He's not like got an ambition for a particular club. If his agent comes up to him and goes, yeah, a deal can only be done with Chelsea, I think he's going to go, yeah, all right, let's go. I don't think for a minute he's going to hesitate. And on that, maybe we've got to be a little less romantic at the moment with flogging academy players and all this. So we're just trying to build a team at the moment. But I don't know, a senior guy who clearly works hard but has the belief in himself. Also, by the time we get to January, what if Jackson scored 3 or 4 goals? I don't know, and looks a bit better and settling in, and then we think, we don't want to unsettle him, and it's still so like untested and unproven, Look, what do you think? If we can buy Ivan Toney, say for 65 million in January, he'll have the best 4 years of his career in his prime as a sort of senior striker around younger strikers. If we can slam dunk that money on him, you sell Chalobah for like £30 million, pure profit. You amortise a 5-year deal for Toney, not a 9-year. Is it a good idea? Let me know. Comment down below your thoughts. I look forward to reading them. Thank you for liking and subscribing. And hopefully I'll see you back here very, very soon on Football Therapy. Peace.